So right now it's the 3-year order cycle. We're not looking at orders below $1 billion, and we need 30% up front, so that's $300 million. But since you guys are startup entrepreneurs, we'll call it 50% up front, so that's $500 million that we need up front for an order. And we kind of sat there like this, but the good news is I'll pay for lunch. Okay? So this is not an area we can look at anymore, but actually we found an opportunity in biogas and saw that in Germany and in Europe there are 5,000 biogas plants in operation, and with a few tweaks this could work as a model in North America, and not where we wouldn't take corn as is being used here, like corn silage, and get into the whole food versus fuel debate, but rather there's enough shit literally and organic waste in North America that's being landfilled or composted or used in kind of non-optimized purposes that we could actually build a company from this. And for us, the kind of profitable kicker was developing organic fertilizer from it, which was very valuable. Again, so back into this is 2006, 2007, kind of like the late 90s where there's money everywhere. We got a $350 million commitment from a private equity company out of Boston, started going on our plants. We built the largest plant in North America, but we were going to build a lot of them. And then 2008 hit, and there was a strategic restructuring of the finance markets in the US. And so after kind of all of that, again, not a huge thing, but it was kind of a relatively successful, and I took the opportunity to get the hell out and move to Berlin where everyone was going because it's so much fun and cool. And in 2010 got here, started investing in some clean tech companies, and then a year ago was asked to join the BMW Foundation so I can bring some of this kind of stuff back and have kind of a platform to bring it back into the sector. So that's what brought me, that's the long version of what brought me here.
I see, you experienced a lot, and our topic today is what's the difference between for-profit business and non-profit or social business anyway. I think we'll come to that, and we had this question earlier today, and well, the answer is not that easy, I think, but we'll come to that. You said you worked in Canada, you worked in the United States as a startup entrepreneur. Could you tell us what are the differences between startup or entrepreneurship in the US and here in Germany? Are there differences?
Sure, definitely there are differences. I think the number one, and you probably heard this before, but there's a higher acceptance of failure kind of in North America than there is, I think, here. And that's an absolute kind of necessity for a healthy startup scene. I think we're starting to see this more in Berlin, that in the startup scene, that there's kind of, let's throw the spaghetti against the wall and see if it sticks kind of approach. And this, you start to hear things like fail fast, or and I mean this fail fast and iterate. This is something that I think Berlin is starting to kind of pick up on. I don't know how much it's spread kind of across Germany, but I think that that's the root difference that kind of affects everything else. So when people say there's no financing here, there's financing there, this all again is about failure and kind of risk. And to be in the startup game, you have to recognize that 80–90% of things that you're going to kind of get through the seed funding will fail, and then there will be there are statistics on this. There's the Facebook unicorn thing, and then there's the ones that kind of do okay, and then there are the 7 that fall apart and stuff like that. So that's my big observation here.
Okay, yeah. So let's say I'm a social entrepreneur. I want to get a startup in social business. Is there anything you can recommend? What are the main like 3 or 4 topics I have to be good in? I have to cover.
So first of all, I think the starting point should never be I want to be a social entrepreneur, and I think that maybe I love the work that Ashoka does, but I'll say this since Dennis is gone now. But I think there's been a bit of a cult of the social entrepreneur, and it's become sexy and cool to be a social entrepreneur. And so then what I see a lot as at the BMW Foundation, people will come in and say, I'm a social entrepreneur and I'm working in this space. And you kind of say, okay, well, who else is working in this space? Well, I don't know actually. Who else is solving this problem? How are you solving this problem differently? And it's kind of, a social entrepreneur doing this kind of stuff, and it comes from kind of what I want to be instead of the problem that I want to solve. And so what I always find interesting, and the social entrepreneurs that we tend to kind of get interested in when it comes to financing and supporting are ones that really say, look, here's this problem that I've identified, and here's why everyone's approaching it wrong. And maybe this is a bit like what Ashoka does as well, you know, the kind of systems change stuff. Here's why it's not being solved in the right way, and here's how I think we can approach it in the right way. And that's what kind of gets, you know, my interest when it comes really about the problem-solving aspect of it. I think one of the big risks is when someone comes in and does a half-hour presentation about a topic, and says, you know, water desalination is an issue in these countries because there's no access to clean water. Like, we know that, these are established problems, but it's what are you doing about it that's different? What are you doing about it that the other 1,000 organizations out there that are working on it are not?
Okay. Can you give us a little idea of BMW Foundation? We had Ashoka on stage here, and Dennis told us a bit about Ashoka and about what they are doing. So what is BMW doing different or maybe the same than Ashoka does?
I mean, I work with Dennis a lot. Dennis and I launched a program together on Tuesday about working on setting up advisory boards for social enterprises. We're supporters of Ashoka as a foundation. We have been for, I think since the beginning. In Germany, we've also helped launch Ashoka in Turkey. So we work very closely with them. We're kind of a different animal in that we're the corporate foundation for BMW, the cars, BMW Group. We work in kind of a broad spectrum, and it's about supporting intermediaries generally and supporting topics. So we identify social entrepreneurship as a means of change. We've identified pro bono, social entrepreneurship. So kind of these different areas of capacity building, and that's what we focus on, helping intermediaries like Ashoka. So that's different from most foundations, which would say, you know, we focus on education in sub-Saharan Africa or something like that, like a specific theme and topic area. We're kind of more about the tools. And my beat is social entrepreneurship, but also more and more social finance, and which for me, again, you know, if I look at where with our resources as a foundation and my background, where I can make the biggest impact for social enterprises, it's generally on the finance side. So I'm working a lot to make impact investment happen here. We just made our first impact investment at the end of 2014 in Impact Hub Global. And I've, together with our asset managers and our sister foundation, we've set aside 9 million euros from our assets that we can invest, you know, like real investment, not giving, but invest in organizations. So that's an area I'm working on quite a lot right now.
Yeah, I would like to focus on this. You said you have to check whether or not a business is social, or if it's non-profit driven, if it's profit driven. We have a checklist or something like that.
No.
How do you check this?
For me, and I think, you know, Dennis kind of mentioned this, it's really about being about kind of the solution. And for me, I'll always look at what the impact is. You know, so someone mentioned it earlier. Like, I don't care if a company makes tons of money. I want it to make tons of money if it's doing good social work, because then it can scale faster, right? For me, the non-profit, for-profit distinction is really a financing avenue. I mean, there are some companies that can do well to finance from investment, and then there are others. Dennis used the example of rehabilitating neo-Nazis. Like, there's probably not a profitable business model there, so that needs, you know, grant funding and stuff like that. Whereas cook stoves, you know, clean cook stoves in Africa, there's a business there, and you're selling these things. So that it's for me just a question of financing and what structure makes the most sense. But in the end, I think we should always be focused on what the impact is, you know, the resources versus impact, and when that equation kind of balances, then yeah, then that's what a winner looks like to me.
Okay. Earlier today, Niels and Sönke talked about why social business could be the next big thing. It's a thesis, it's like, it's a question. And in this, this question leads me to another question to you. What can social entrepreneurs learn from startup in the for-profit business? And vice versa. Are there differences who can learn from each other and what to learn?
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of see that there's this convergence happening more and more, and I hope that in 10 years we won't have so much of a distinction, because you know, when you look at some of the problems that the world is facing right now, I mean, all of the big startups are in some way going to be social businesses. If you look at, you know, where the money from the most successful venture capitalists is going right now, look at Kleiner Perkins or Sequoia, their money is going into smart agriculture, it's going into crisis management, it's going into clean tech, you know, so I mean, just maybe this is an aside, but I think the biggest market opportunities coming, you know, going forward are going to be this, as we adapt to, you know, or try to adapt to climate change and dying oceans and this kind of stuff.
So will Rocket Internet focus on dying oceans or on like dying woods?
I think so. I mean, I think, you know, I don't know about them specifically, but I think you're seeing more and more, and we saw this on Tuesday. I was with Dennis when we had an entrepreneurs lunch with people from Rocket Internet and Zalando, you know, the founders and CEOs of these companies, and they're there and they're getting interested in this kind of stuff. I mean, the Entrepreneurs Pledge, which probably was mentioned before, is started by Rocket Internet entrepreneurs, right? Like guys who had this company. So, and it now has 58 signatories in the space of kind of 3 months, and these are people who are saying they're going to give away 50% or invest 50% of their profits from their next startups. I think the one point that doesn't get made enough about social entrepreneurship is that it's fun. Like I mean, it's amazing to be able to wake up every day and know that you're working on something that's fundamentally really important. And you know, from my perspective, the farther away I've been from the social stuff, the less interesting it's been for me, the less I've been driven by it. And likewise, I've had periods of time when I've had, you know, access to lots of money, and those were, you know, probably inversely related to the periods when I was doing the most socially positive stuff, and you know, an inverse relation there to my happiness. You know, so when I was really kind of putting everything in and not taking a salary, working on kind of the like Canada Helps and some of the more social stuff, I was like happy as hell. And then when I was working on wax, you know, setting up a company that makes wax from recycled plastic, which has a bit of a clean tech angle to it, but it's really just a traditional business with a recycled aspect to it. I was miserable, you know, and I was being paid well, but I didn't give a shit about wax, you know, believe it or not. So I think, you know, that, I mean, that's somehow that message gets lost, that it's really fulfilling, it's really enjoyable, it's really fun.
Yeah. Okay, I think you will be with us a couple of hours today. So who should come and talk to you? Who should come to and talk to BMW Foundation, and why? Who should?
You know, I like to see the BMW Foundation. We're smaller than people generally think, you know, in comparison to the size of the car company. But I think we're very international, and we're very good at kind of like bringing people together. And we're good matchmakers. That's kind of the best thing. So, you know, if you're a social entrepreneur, if you're somehow working in this constellation and you're looking to get matched with, I mean, anyone for any reason, that's what we're generally pretty good at. We don't have super deep pockets, and we generally just support intermediary organizations, not direct social enterprises. So that's you know, in that sense, we're not great, but we're good at matching people to the right foundations and stuff like that if they're looking for funding.
When you talk about like profit-driven business and non-profit business, why does BMW found this foundation? Is there a reason? Is it like image or recruiting?
No, I mean this happened. You know, we're talking 30 or 40 years ago, and I think it was like a birthday present from one of the founders to the others or something. Like, I mean, it was from the families. It was from the founding families, the Herbert Quandt and the Quandt family, who remain involved with us. But it was not kind of an initiative of the company itself.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Ryan. Thanks so far.